Good afternoon, everybody. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. I'm so glad to be here and getting kicked off on our first episode of the New Normal Business Show. Wilson, what do you have to
Yeah.
say?
Good afternoon, guys, and hope you learn and share insights together in this episode.
Great. So let's get right into it. This episode is about the new House Bill. Oops, I lost. I lost the slide. The slide. I need to see the slide. Okay, it's about the new House Bill 6623, also known as the New Normal for the Workplace and Public Spaces Act of 2020. And this is actually a bill that was introduced in the Congress by none other than House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano. It's also been sponsored by some luminaries, and they are really, really trying to push it through quickly. As a matter of fact, they said that they wanted to push this through by the end of the month. But, we'll see how that goes because apparently talagang kailangan na ito. So just to give you an idea of what's sort of in the bill, if you can have the next slide, there's actually nine specific areas of the bill that are included, starting with the universal and mandatory safety measures. So Wilson, pag sinabing mandatory, ibig sabihin yan is required and by under penalty of potential imprisonment and criminal charges and fines kung di sundin yan. So what do you think of that, Wilson, about this particular mandatory requirements subject to criminal prosecution if you do not comply with these requirements?
Well, personally, I think based on history, it would take some time for that House bill to become law. Remember, it has to go up to the Senate, right? And so, why should we be worried at all right now? Because we have other stuff to worry about, Joey.
Well, that's true, no? It'll take some time, just like most other bills. Dadaan pa yan ng kailangan approval ng House of Congress, tapos pupunta pa yan ng Senate, and then after that, kailangan pa siyang even when it's passed and signed by the president, it still has to go through what's called the implementing rules and regulations before you can actually apply the law. Kasi
Yep.
matagal pa yon. But be that as it may, the point is that they're really, really wanting to push this through, and get it done as soon as possible. So even maybe with all of those other delays, it's very conceivable that this will find itself to be a law before the end of the year. So
Okay.
malapit na rin yun, malapit na rin, no? And the
Yep.
point is that when you talk about a law of this nature, it is requiring business owners and managers to comply. Diba? Kaya magko-comply ka dapat.
So
And
I'm getting curious. What are those 9 points that we need to comply with?
okay, so first, like I said, it does have some universal and mandatory safety measures. I don't know if we have the slide to show. Number two is the management of spaces. All public spaces have to be managed a particular way. Tapos management of public transportation. Even yun, paano mag-conduct ng public transportation. Monitoring of schools and learning institutions. Monitoring of private, commercial, and industrial workplaces. Even LGUs, merong role ngayon dyan. And then, of course, workplace-specific protocols and measures, the role of the private sector, and responsibilities of our national government offices, government-owned, and even the GOCC. So, malawak to. Maraming tatamaan nito, maraming ma-affect nito. And so, it's quite wide-ranging. And, of course, again, it is a law, which means that non-compliance of these requirements will result in criminal prosecution, hindi lang to civil. Your thoughts, Wilson?
So, like, I think the law, once it gets to Senate, will evolve a bit. I'd like to see it incorporate some of the new technologies to help companies better able to cope with the monitoring requirements. So I wonder if Brian can flash our supermarket scene here in Singapore, right? So over on your right side, you will see a large QR code flash at the entrance of supermarkets in Singapore. And so whenever you go in, you either present your IC or you take out your cell phone and scan that QR code to check in. And so once you're checked in successfully, you will see the blue page, the green page. It will show like what you see in the middle. That's a safe entry pass. It shows me going in at 7:47 in the morning. And then again, there's another QR code at the exit. And so once you scan yourself at the exit, you will get the blue screenshot on the window. So it shows me going out at 8:01. So I'm looking at automated techniques to help companies better able to comply with the regulations of the soon-to-be approved HB 6623. Back to you, Joey.
So, Wilson, do you really think that something like this, if use of technology, like they're doing now in Singapore, to be able to cope with requirements placed upon businesses by government, do you think that is something which can actually happen here?
I think to be economically viable for both the small and medium enterprises, it has to be a whole of government approach. So the QR codes would somehow be integrated with the national ID. So every person has one single ID, so you can track people. And so there's also the implication for big data analytics. Remember that when you check in, that data goes to a central server. And so another person that wants to visit the same supermarket might use that data to check how many people, what's the density of the people now currently in that supermarket. So it serves a ton of purpose, aside, of course, from the obvious contact tracing purposes. Like if one day somebody gets infected, you can trace which stores this person went to. So there's a lot of benefits that are tied up to that QR code and ID system. Back to you, Joey.
Yeah, pero my opinion there is that isn't it another requirement or burden? There's a cost involved in all this, and of course, the business owner, the business people, will be the one to shoulder this, right? Uh, there's got to be some rationale for somebody to make this compliance thing a lot easier, right? So,
Right, right.
do you think that what will happen with this is pag nangyari to sa Pilipinas, that technologies like they have in Singapore will have to be imported here, or do you think this is something na magagawa rin dito?
I I think I've seen several Philippine-made software that can be used by the government to do exactly this. And remember, establishments need to also take care and protect their own patrons. So the idea here is if somebody were to scan their ID, the system will go back to the central server and then check the status of that person. So if that person was exposed or infected, the establishment should bar entry, therefore protecting the rest of their patrons and thereby installing confidence in their patrons to shop or do business at that establishment. So in this new normal environment, I think people that don't do such a step when it's universally mandated won't have a lot of customers going to patronize it.
And I guess looking at it from the standpoint of the technology providers, no, since naman tayo, we're in technology
Yeah,
and technology businesses, I guess these requirements will also potentially open up some opportunities for the technology sector to come
exactly.
up with easy to use, affordable, mass marketed solutions for compliance so they can comply, like what you showed there in Singapore, right? Because after all, one of the things that is also in the new bill, if I can just show that again, yung next slide, new bill is this thing about the management of office spaces. So can we see that slide? Okay, while it's coming up there, um, before that, sorry, before that, okay, so ito, item number 7 on the list, workplace specific protocols and measures. So basically, they are coming into our offices, into our workspaces, and saying, this is the way you need to do things like arrange your furniture, provide with your employees with hand washing stations, maybe even in some cases, the wearing of PPEs, who knows? Okay? I think malaking bagay dito yung social distancing. Di
Yep.
ba? They're going to
And
require all your desks to be at least 6 feet apart, which means that whatever space you had before, mangyayari dyan, you'll need more than, siguro double the space to accommodate the same people, but siguro hindi rin, because one of the provisions also is that at least 50% of your workers work from
mhm.
home. When possible, they must work from home.
and
So,
and before you go there, remember there's another provision inside the HB 6623 about the management plan. So each business now has to submit a management plan. What do you think
right.
about that, Joey?
Kung dati nga, ang kailangan lang sa atin, mga things like this disaster recovery plan, evacuation plans, now
Uh-huh.
we have to submit a management plan in terms of how we are going to manage the health and well-being of our employees. But not only that, there are also reportorial requirements. You have to be able to report and be audited with this plan. So
Grown.
exactly. I mean, what do you think? More work for the business owner?
Well, as it is, our admin departments are already saddled with all these reportorial requirements from BIR, local governments, SSS, PhilHealth, you name it, somebody else has to do it inside our company, paid for by the company. So I guess, this might be an opportunity to convert a crisis into an opportunity, Joey, since we're into IT. What do you think about, maybe taking the lead in creating an online template that businesses could use to spit out. They just do a fill in the blanks, easy to comply with, and then it will spit out a completed management plan.
Yeah.
Much like the templates for lawyers, legal templates.
Yeah. Actually nga, di ba ngayon, pwede ka nang magkumuha ng mga online templates, like you said, for legal documents. You can even get online templates for your tax filing, for your financial statements.
Mhm.
Yeah, why not? Why not somebody, either our IT companies or some other IT entrepreneur there, why not come up with a system online that people can say, oh, I want to be compliant with the new management plan requirements of this particular law. Just go on there, and maybe with a little bit of clicking, mouse clicking, and typing in, it produces a templated management plan so you can be compliant. Of course, it doesn't stop there. No, dapat i-implement mo yun. You actually have to do what's in the plan, but at least the
Exactly.
administrative drudgery of creating that plan has been automated for you.
So, like, I've heard some stats like 90% of businesses or more are SMEs.
Yep.
So, like, if you put up such a template, you would be helping what, 90% of all businesses in the country.
Exactly, exactly. Actually, that is something which maybe some of our colleagues in the IT industry are not aware of. No, I mean we're all usually focused on producing products and services that cater to the large enterprises, because after all, they're the ones with the money. They have a lot of budget to spend on IT. But the truth is, in terms of the total available market, um, like I said, 90% of all employees are employed by SMEs, not by the large conglomerates, but
Hmm.
also the numbers. I mean, 90% of the businesses in this country are, in fact, SMEs. It's a
Right.
huge opportunity. So,
Yeah.
again, going back to the opportunity, turning a crisis into opportunity, as the burden and the regulations come raining down on SMEs, I think it's a perfect opportunity for those of us in the IT industry to come up with ways, affordable ways, to use technology to keep up with this. I just want to use one example, no, in social distancing
Right.
in the office.
Mm-hmm.
There, actually, you will be required to make sure that there's social distancing. Well, one way to do that, Chef, is just to watch and monitor
Yeah.
normally. But
Mm-hmm.
imagine a situation where you have an AI assisted camera that's watching the office all the time. And anytime two individuals get too close to each other, it will actually sound an alarm. So to remind them that they're getting too close to each other. Isn't
Right.
that a good use of technology?
Um, I can I can almost hear my classmates online say, shades of Big Brother, 1984. Yeah, but so would you like to circle back and ask me the big data implications for such a template?
Yes. So if you are able to do that, what would be? I mean, obviously, you're going to be collecting a lot of data from a lot of businesses. So what do you think the big data implications are?
So like as 90% of all businesses go and use that single template, their answers can form the basis of insights that we can then share with like national governments for planning,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep.
So there's value to offering the free service as well. You can harvest insights.
So it's not. I think the lesson there is that sometimes we look at the solution itself, the IT solution itself, whether it's software or hardware, as the
Mhm.
source of value, a source of revenue by licensing or selling that solution. Pwede kang kumita, but there's a lot to be said about also free solutions that collect and generate data, where the data is where the
Ex-
value is, di ba?
yeah, look at Facebook, Google, Gmail, right? So that's been done before.
Yeah. So one of the parts of the bill talks about, di ba, being able to monitor the health conditions and
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
daily symptoms and who's been tested, who's not been tested, who has symptoms, who's well, who's not well. Businesses will be required to keep track of employee health. Now, once you're able to track that, once you're able to collate that, that becomes
Hmm.
a very valuable data set for policymakers in the country, di ba?
Right. And guess what? You don't pay people to enter the data. The
Yes.
people that use the system enter the data for you. And so there's no more typo in transcribing like DOH.
Exactly, exactly. So let's go to another area, no, also with this that this part of this bill in terms of management of workspace. We talked kanina about social distancing, but that can only actually happen in the workplace if a significant number of employees are working from home.
Hmm.
Now, tayo, again, those of us who've been in the IT industry and we have what I would call fairly digital businesses, when this lockdown happened, uh, parang tagal na, no? March 16, on
Yep.
that day, when that happened, I remember that day we all went home early, 4 o'clock, umuwi na kami lahat. And then the next day, we had meetings already scheduled, which were supposed to happen in the office, but instead, they actually happened online.
Online. Online.
We were able to continue immediately the next day with no gaps. No, I guess most of our business colleagues out there were
Hmm.
not as lucky. They were not as lucky to be able to do that because they were not set up and ready to work from home, right?
But then, there are tools. There
Yes.
are now tools that are free, and it comes from one of our advocacies. So like if I can ask Brian or Joel to play the pre-recorded video. So we'd like to show a dashboard showing
And Wilson, before we show this the
Mhm.
video, no, let's just put some context into it. I think you were going to talk about the fact that we need to know what kind of connectivity people
Right.
have,
Right.
right? Maybe you can give us a bit of a background because I know you've been working on this project called BAS,
Mm-hmm.
and give us a bit of a background on BAS and how that might be used by employers and even the employees to
Right.
determine the viability of work from home. Go ahead.
So Project BUS is a crowdsourced, volunteer-powered speed test of a sort, right? Made for Philippine environments. So the way it works is you ask your employees to download BUS onto their cell phones. They go home, they connect to their internet, and then measure the internet from their homes, and it will come back with a measure of their bandwidth. Now, the idea here, like what we did in our call center, is we asked our prospective agents that wanted to work from home to come back and show us the screenshot of the Wi-Fi bandwidth at their place. So obviously, if your Wi-Fi is like 256 kbps, you're not going to qualify. So we're looking at agents whose Wi-Fi connections are at least 5 to 10 Mbps. And so you can imagine a lot of people day in and day out submitting measures to BUS. It's all collected in one site. And so let's show the other benefit. So can we play the video? When you're asking your staff to do work from home, one of the critical components of working from home is the internet connectivity. And so like us, our call center Farm Out, we've asked our people, those who wanted to work from home, to first show us that they qualify. And one of the things that we ask is a screenshot of the results of Project BUS. So Project BUS is a tool, mobile-based app, much like a speed tester. No, it will show the results. And so enough of our volunteers and crowd-based supporters would have sent in their data from all across the country for the past 3 years. And we've compiled them into an easy to access dashboard. And this is the URL. So from the URL, there's a filter. But before we discuss the filter, you can see that we've arranged the interactive dashboard by regions, and then the sub-level is by provinces, and then further down is by cities or municipalities. So for example, we want to see like Davao. So we simply click on the Davao region, and up comes the Davao region, Davao province, and municipality. And what it says here is for Davao, our volunteers' measurements show that Sky Broadband has the highest bandwidth, median bandwidth using Wi-Fi. So these are fixed internet connections. Here, the median bandwidth is 31 Mbps. So if we want to go back, we just do a click back, and we find another region. So like Calabar zone. This is very popular because a lot of factories are here. So here's Calabar zone, and you see we have more volunteers over here than in Davao. So let's say Laguna. We just click on Laguna, so we can shift the display to show only the cities and municipalities of Laguna. We want to say, for example, Calamba. We just click on Calamba, and we will see here that Community Cable Vision actually has a better bandwidth profile than Converge or Royal Cable Flash or My CATV or PLDT Smart or Globe Telecoms. So that in a nutshell also helps your people to determine who they want to subscribe with. And these are data coming from a lot of people. And so with that, I just urge you to share the link to go to our website, projectbus.org. and download the app onto your mobile phone, either Android or iOS. We have both edition. You scroll down here and you can download the app into your phone, and you can help measure Philippine internet.
Yay, good
Yay!
demo. Good demo there, Wilson.
Yeah,
And that's how Project Bass works. And I guess the learning there is that there is a way for employers to determine really who is not really qualified, but who is actually it's practical for them to work from home.
yeah,
Obviously, if they don't have the amount of bandwidth required to work from home, then hindi pwede talaga, no?
right.
And that sort of leads me to the whole idea of not just work from home, but the digital capability of businesses. The truth is, one of the things that I have been sort of predicting since about 3 years ago, in 2017 pa, sabi ko at that time that businesses that are not digital to a certain extent by the year 2022 will become extinct, right? And I actually have this digital maturity model that I use, and maybe we can show that slide now as I speak about this. But the digital maturity model is a way for us to measure the maturity of a business, primarily SMEs now. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, the lowest level is one. Level one is when you have the proper infrastructure in place. And being able to work from home is very dependent on a business
Infrastructure. Yeah.
being at least at one. And infrastructure is really not just not just talking about your devices and your physical workstation and your connectivity, but there are also systems, like communications and collaboration systems that you need to use to be able to communicate and engage with your employees and supervise them and manage them. And
Yeah.
what we've found in the Philippines is that easily 90%, maybe 85%, if we are being generous, are not even at level one of the digital maturity
Oh
level.
no.
Yes, oh no. Kaya marami talagang nahihirapan with this work from home. And even when they were eventually able to keep up, to do it, it took them a while before they could actually do it in terms of work from home. The other problem, though, is that if you don't have the right tools being used by the employees, you're working from home, but you're just physically at home, but you're not actually being productive
Tip at
at
home.
home because
Yep.
you can't properly communicate. You can't even send files to each other. You can't even collaborate on documents. Without that, you cannot really be any more digitally mature. So I think part great solution BAS is to find out whether the bandwidth is acceptable or not for work from home situations. But the other part really is that employers do need to provide the proper systems, tools, not just devices and connectivity at the employer's expense.
Yep.
Because after all, you are turning your employee's household into a workspace. And basically, when they're in a workspace, that's your workspace. You're the employer. So
Mm-hmm.
dapat naman siguro kailangan kayo mag-provide, tayo mag-provide nun
Yep.
sa ating
We
employees.
we
And not leave it
actually
up to them.
we actually did that for our call center employees, because the other thing that we were concerned about is data privacy and data security. So
Sure.
if your employees were using a shared laptop that they use for both home and office, personal and business, no, no, don't do that. Don't do that. And reacting to what you said earlier, that you were projecting some businesses to die down by year 2020, it's actually happening now.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
what this
actually happening
pandemic
now. Yeah.
what this pandemic has done actually in this whole lockdown situation is it
Mm-hmm.
actually forced me to move up my prediction. So imbis na 2022 may extinct to mga businesses na hindi pa nakaabot sa level 2, I really think that that's going to happen na by the end of 2020. I really believe that any business, SME or otherwise, that is not at least at level 2 digital maturity, which means that their employees can be engaged by the business digitally, they'll be out of business, man. I don't care what business you're in. You will be out of business by the end of the year kung hindi ka pa DMM level 2.
Right. And, not even businesses. Consider this. ABS-CBN just lost its right to broadcast on the air. It can now only be accessed online. And the
Yeah,
other thing here is, how about schools? Scientific, health studies have shown that a lot of the infections have been accelerated by the kids. And
yeah,
then when they go home, they infect their parents. But then if you do not open regular physical classes, what do you do? Online? How can
yeah,
you do online when our medium bandwidth as from bus results are really really low?
yeah.
So that's a quandary that I hope our friends over at the DICT can accelerate. Guys,
You
we're
know,
rooting for you.
I think distance learning, which used to be sort of a niche unto itself, distance learning is going to have to be a norm, part of the new normal, to be able to allow students and teachers to do what they do remotely. In other words, the idea that you must be in a classroom
Hmm.
to be able to learn, that's kind of old thinking na, di ba? Hindi na new normal eh. I think nowadays the teacher and the student, they don't have to be in the same location. The
Right.
student
So
can actually be anywhere else and attending digitally, and the teacher can actually conduct a session for students that might even be across different schools. Okay,
so
that's
so
the new normal.
Right. So the new normal is actually, like, remember, converting a crisis to opportunity. Now, if imagine a school converting to purely online education, what is what's its target demographics and client base now? Would it be somebody that's really limited by geographic radius, or somebody anywhere worldwide?
Yep. Well, exactly. No, I mean we've been talking about something like, for example, telemedicine for a
Hmm.
long time, right? And by the way, in Australia, they've been practicing telemedicine out in the bush, those are medyo rural areas for many decades now. And basically, if you're out in the bush over there, you're provided, and this is government provided, with a satellite link that allows you to consult with physicians from anywhere in the country remotely. So that's telemedicine. No? And ngayon, parang that is already being forced upon our medical practitioners and physicians here. And it's really exposed the fact that for the most part, the infrastructure to do that is not there either. Many of them are using Zoom, they're using Skype, they're using different consumer platforms, but it's not really geared towards the delivery of medical services. So
Yeah.
again, opportunity, no?
Right.
Opportunity yan, di ba?
Yeah, a lot of room for improvement. So, like, shout out to our friends over at PLDT and Globe, and soon to be Dito if ever they come up, right?
Yep. And let's just go back to the point on distance learning. No? I mean, let's not forget that
We Jolita may be angry at us. She's flashing her
is
four
she?
minutes to go.
Oh, okay. But
We can make room for Q&A.
I thought that I thought that we were running a bit late, so I thought maybe that would also be late. But I guess we should wrap this part up. So maybe just to wrap this part up, we can just talk about the fact that um, most of the people who are on the other side of the digital divide are there not because of lack of willingness. They're there because they don't have the connectivity. Okay, if you can talk about distance learning all you want, but if you're a student who happens to live in a barangay or a barrio somewhere where there's not even LTE, that's a problem. When you can't even get broadband, that's a
Uh,
problem.
there's actually an RFC for that. I forgot the RFC number, but it's called Network by Carrier Pigeon.
Okay.
Roger, though, this one is from you.
Okay. Okay. So I think we've been told that our time is up on our talking time, and we were going to get into the Q&A portion of the program. So let's turn it back over to Brian.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Wilson. I know there's still a lot of things that you would want to say. Actually, there are a lot of points that we already got, but basically, what is going to happen with what we're entering into this new normal? All businesses would definitely be affected, and this is actually going to be mandated by law because of this House bill, and all businesses should be able to be prepared for this new normal. As much as we want to, we must accept that fact. Things are not going to go back to the old normal, but we are now entering into the new normal. In fact, it's already starting. So we'd like to thank you for all the points that you've shared. And we got a few questions here right now. And for those who are watching us, just feel free to type in your questions so we can get to them later. So we have a question. First question. Are there provisions to protect our privacy to prevent things like the Meralco breach and an accountability for those that cause it?
It will take Joey. I'll take it.
Go ahead, Wilson. Go ahead.
Yeah. One of my roles is I'm a certified CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. Now, thankfully, in the Philippines, they also passed the privacy law, right? So it's now a criminal offense. And so, like, what it does, it's unlike before, pag nahack ka, okay lang. Ngayon, pag nahack ka, somebody goes to jail. Somebody in your company goes to jail. And that somebody is the data protection officer. So, ang tip ko sa inyo, before you transact with a company, go to their website, look at their privacy policy, look at their data privacy officer. Normally, when these companies are clued into data privacy protection, they would have a data protection officer. So if you don't see a data protection officer on their website, better be careful.
Yeah, and I'd like to take that spotlight and shine it on SMEs now. I mean, you can talk about websites and companies having a privacy policy, but are you aware of a survey that was taken like middle of last year, clearly several years after the DPA was passed, and they took a survey of companies with less than 100 employees in terms of their compliance with even the most basic requirements of the Data Privacy Act. Would you care to guess how many of those SMEs were compliant with even the most basic requirements? What would you guess, Wilson?
1%?
Di naman, that's not that bad. It's 7%.
Okay. 7%.
7% of SMEs were compliant with even the most basic requirements, which is things like having a statement, right, on your website, or if it's a physical, you don't have a website, it has to be somewhere in your documentation. Like if you have an office, dapat meron kang privacy statement, which, by the way, all employees are required to know. And they found that even for those most basic requirements, 7% compliance among SMEs.
Well, so, crisis, opportunity.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe just an additional inquiry to related to the first question. How can you relate this to the national ID system and the government is trying to implement?
Wilson, are you for or against having
I'm for the national ID. A lot of things, a lot of shenanigans have been going on because we don't have a national ID. Yung sa 4P na lang, the last time I checked, the Philippines borrowed $64 billion just to finance 4P. And guess what? Part of it is not getting to the right intended recipients, but that's another story.
How about you? How about you, Joey? Are you for or against?
To be honest, I'm a bit on the fence. Technically, I guess you could say academically, I am for, because it really takes care of a lot of the things that Wilson is referring to. And having a national ID, just like in any other advanced country, simplifies many of the processes, which right now, even something like a centralization of records becomes so much easier. Okay, so academically, theoretically, technically, yes, I'm for it. But in reality, we are talking about the Philippines. And kung merong lusot, kung may gusot, may lusot, right? And I cannot I cannot fathom a situation where even something as, shall we say, uh, good as a national ID system would not be subverted and used in not so good ways in our country.
Well,
You
there,
know,
yeah,
the actual application, because
you
as you
know,
know, we are a country of equals.
right,
It's
right.
just that
So,
some people are more equal than others.
yay, Manet, thank you for supporting me, Manet. Manet Benitez, my classmate. So, pro national ID kami. Yes, there will be some, some pro and con, but we look at it overall. Delivery of government services is going to be more efficient with the national ID system. More efficient.
And
Yep.
we do know that fraud will also be curtailed because
Mm-hmm.
of that
Yeah.
fraud. But as I said, pag may gusot, may lusot. So I think even that will not be totally solved
Yep.
by that because a very ingenious people. We are able to find ways to do things even we're not
Kanino bang
supposed to.
bangko yun? We find ways? Di ba? Ano ba yun?
Di
Sponsor
ba?
ba natin yun? Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, so that's for our first, and 1.5 question. For our next question, and maybe you can take one or two more, given the time that we have. For the QR code in Singapore,
Yeah.
one that Wilson showed earlier, how do you think we can do that here in Manila? Can those without smartphones
Very
still
good
comply?
question. Very good question. So, like, we've done the studies here, and Facebook tells us that there's a 67 to 70% penetration in Facebook using mobile phones. So we know that at least 60 to 70 million people there own at least one phone, right? So we take care of that 70 million now. So we need only 30 million more to take care of. So the idea here would be to reverse it. That national ID that we were talking about earlier could contain the QR code. And babalik rin natin. Imbis na siya yung mag-i-scan ng QR code ng supermarket, the guard at the supermarket entrance has the smartphone that scans the QR code of the guy. So in effect, if you don't have a smartphone, you don't own a smartphone, you can still be part of it as long as you have national ID. So nakikita mo na yung dikit-dikit. So it's linked together.
Yep.
And who pays for the national ID? Not the establishment, it's the national government. So one investment has multiple collateral benefits.
Mhm. Okay. I think we'll get to our last question. So, given that there's a new normal that's happening now, and I know both of you, each of you have your own businesses. We have a question here. Are there any solutions or offerings that maybe you recently introduced that you think could be able to help businesses adjust to this new normal? I don't want it to be a sales, pero just an overview of things that you are currently offering, so that maybe some of our viewers here can reach out to you if there are things that they can use from your business.
Joey, I'll start off, or
Go ahead.
you've thought of something. So,
Go ahead, Wilson.
not to
Yeah.
sell anything, I'm not related to the author, but I can recommend a book, The Rules of the Digital Transformation Playbook. So what Joey and I are hinting at is, if you don't have if you don't digitally transform your business, it's going to die off, right? So I think now it's very, very clear, even to my families, my own family. So like, one thing you can do, read the book. And if you find it too technical, you start off with a simpler one. I just finished this morning. Who moved my cheese? Have you read that one? Who
Yeah.
moved my
Yeah.
cheese?
Yeah.
Is a very good opening book for people that have to cope with change. And then once you are in the proper mindset, you then read the digital transformation playbook. It contains everything you need to know to take your business to the CMM level 2 or even 3. That's it, Joey. Sa'yo.
Okay. Well, yeah, since Wilson took a sort of educational bent, maybe you can show that slide again with the digital maturity model if it's possible. But yeah, I think the solution that I think is most relevant to business owners and SMEs today is education. I mean, this new normal is requiring us to learn a lot of new things and apply them. And I think there is no other body of information for a business owner, to become educated on right now than this whole buzzword of digital transformation. Being able to take your business from the physical realm to the digital requires a new set of knowledge, a new set of skills, a new set of even attitude. Because when you digitally transform your business, you're also transforming your business model. Hindi lang yung technology eh. Technology is kind of secondary. You must first transform how you do business. So to me, education, being educated in this whole digital transformation thing, and for those of you who are interested in this particular body of knowledge, I am freely sharing this because I think it is so critical for SMEs and business owners right now to be knowledgeable about this. If you go to www.joeygurango.com and you sign up today, subscribe today to my mailing list, just today, I will send you a free ebook on the digital maturity model. And that will give you a good introduction on what it means to digitally transform. And if you want more information beyond that, my contact details will be there. You can get in touch with me. I'll be glad to talk to you some more about it and show you some other learning references that you could go to. So there you go. That's my educational contribution of the day.
Thank you. We are running out of time, so we are about to conclude the show. But before we do that, maybe Joey and Wilson, do you have any final points that you would like to share? You're muted, Wilson.
So Joey, I go first. So I'd like to make a call out. If you find Project Bus beneficial to you, baka pwede naman nyo kami ding tulungan as your staff and also your friends to download the app, and wherever you go, sa kasulok-sulukan na parte ng Pilipinas, the more remote it is, please take a measure. Our data is being shared freely. Even cell site ID is being captured. And so this data is shared freely also with the DICT. And so they use it for planning purposes. So instead of complaining about poor bandwidth, help improve it by just taking a measure. Right? So that's it from me.
Okay. Great. So ako naman, balik lang ako sa sinabi ko kanina, no? If you guys really want to know about this digital transformation thing, go to www.joeygurango.com, subscribe today to my mailing list, and I will send you a free ebook. In my opinion, and of course, maybe I am biased, in my opinion, this is the most important new learning that every business owner or manager should attempt to accomplish at this time. Lalo na ngayon na we're all stuck at home and we have
Nothing better
time,
to do.
nothing better to do. Might as well
Yeah.
educate yourself. Educate yourself,
Yeah.
right? Make yourself a better business owner or business manager while you still have the luxury of time. So there you
Yeah.
go. Subscribe to joygrano.com and get a free ebook on the digital maturity model.
Thank you, Brian, for hosting us. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brian. You're muted.
Again, sorry.
I'm the one who's muted. Okay, thank you, Joey. Thank you, Wilson. Thank you for the insights that you've shared. I hope our viewers were able to learn a thing or two. Medyo sick yung mga na-share nila today, and I would like to thank everyone for joining us. We hope we would also see you next week for our episode 2. Again, this is something that we'll do on weekly. So if you want to be able to know more about our future events, I would like to encourage everyone to like and follow our page, SERVIO Technologies. Next week we will continue our discussions on this House bill, the new normal House bill but we will mainly focus on social distancing. So, ang social distancing, pangmayaman nga lang ba talaga? So that's what we're going to discuss next week. Again, thank you everyone for watching the New Normal Business Show Episode 1, presented by SERVIO Technologies and co-presented by Bitstop Network Services Data Center and MB Tech News. If you enjoyed this show, I hope you please like and share this video. So I hope everyone would be able to enjoy the rest of your evening. Goodbye. Thank you.